From tired to thriving, from silence to song. With YDC, you belong. Let's start living, rise again. You are more than just a pain. Confident, bold, unashamed. Your discovery coach, remember the name. You're strong, you're seen, you're free to dream. YDC, 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 remember the name. Hey mama, you're more than enough. Hey mama, stand tall, you've given so much. You gave your all, now it's time to shine. You've been in the shadows, now step in the light. Rediscover your voice, take back your name. You're not just a mom, your power, your flame. From tired to thriving, from silence to song. With YDC, you belong. Let's start living.
And hey, mamas, let's start living. As always, my name is Debbie Echo, and I'm the founder of Your Discovery Coach. It's a safe space where women who feel invisible in their own lives find their voice again, find themselves again, and build their confidence. Thank you so much for joining me on another Friday Live. So, hey, mamas, let's start living. And what do we have today? You're not invisible, you are just self silencing. Let's see what today is all about. Let me ask you something very honestly. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life? Have you ever felt like you've just disappeared? You're just everybody's mom, you're just somebody's wife, you know. You feel like everything is just I don't know who I am anymore. I don't even enjoy my own activities. I don't enjoy my own hobbies. Let's go on. It's not because your voice became quieter. You still show up, you know, you still care for people, you're still there. Everybody, in fact, you're even the life of the party, I dare say. But you know, you're doing the work, you're doing everything. You're doing everything to be visible, but somehow, your voice, your ideas, your presence, you know, feels smaller than it once did. There was a time where, you know, you felt more seen or more known in your life, but now it just feels like your life now revolves around, you know, a very small circle of people, small people who are dependent on you, small people who are who look up to you for everything, and then it just feels like, you know, your life has shrunken. Some people even want to introduce you and they say, "Oh, that's Bola's wife," or "That's, you know, whatever, Benga's wife." You know, they're not calling you your own name, and you feel like, ah, come on, I have a name. Or that's Femi's mom. You know, you've become someone's wife or someone's mom. It's not because your voice has become smaller. It just feels like, you know, ideas, you know, just somehow it feels like you've become invisible. And that's one thing that really led me to, you know, start this work, because invisibility is something that, you know, I had struggled with, even though it was somehow, it's always a decision, right? It's a decision to have kids, it's a decision to marry and all that. But you know, it just felt like, after this, what? Who am I again? Yeah, stay with me, stay with me. Have you ever felt like that? Have you just, you know, what I've described, is that you? And then what if the problem is not actually that it's because the world ignores you? What if the problem is that you've learned to silence your own self? So motherhood is not the problem. What if that's not the problem? That it's just because you're a mom, or just because you're invisible? What if the world is still waiting for your voice? What if, have you ever thought about it, that, you know, the world is still waiting for your voice, the world is still waiting for your light to shine, but somehow you were the one who learned to silence yourself. You learned to stay at the background. You learned to stay behind. Have you thought about it that way? Stay with me. Tonight, I want to this afternoon, sorry, I want to show you 3 ways women silence themselves, often without realizing it. I want to show you 3 ways women often silence themselves without realizing it. It doesn't happen in a dramatic moment. It's not always like, you know, just one big moment where, oh my God, I've just silenced myself. No, that's not how it happens. It rarely happens that way. It happens quietly. It happens through small adjustments. You know, when you tell yourself, "Oh, I'm not going to share my ideas, what's the point?" You're in a group, you're with people, you're seated with them, you're in a group, even in a learning group, you've told yourself that, oh, my ideas don't matter. Even at home, you tell yourself your ideas don't matter. Your husband is trying to, do adjustments in the house, and you're telling yourself, oh, my voice does not matter. You stay quiet in conversations. You just It's okay. After all, he earns more than me. Or what's the big deal? You say things like subtle things like, what's the big deal? He earns more than me, or so let me be quiet. You start to postpone your dream. Oh, these kids need me, everybody needs me, the grandparents need me, my parents need me, my mother-in-law needs me, everybody needs me. And then you start to postpone your dreams, you start to postpone who you really want to be, and you choose comfort over expression. So sometimes saying how you feel can come across as you're not grateful. Those things that they used to tell us as children. You didn't if you had you don't have it as hard, so therefore you're not supposed to be able to express how you feel. Oh, some children have it hard. They tell you that things like, oh, children in Africa, even though I'm Nigerian, children in Somalia, that's what they used to tell me, in those days. Children in Somalia, children in Somalia are suffering. Children in war zones, they don't have food. So you've learned to suppress your comfort, suppress your expression. Sorry, it's more comfortable for you to be quiet. It's more comfortable for you to appear peaceful. So you say, "Oh, she's a very quiet person," but meanwhile, you know that you're roasting on the inside. There's so much fire on the inside. You're dying on the inside. At first it kind of feels polite. You just want to be polite. You don't want to, step on anybody's toes. You don't want anybody's wahala, and all that. Then it becomes an habit. You just realize that speaking up is not your thing. So you don't want to ruffle feathers. So you just realize, I'm always quiet. I'm not the sort of person that ruffles feathers. I'm not the sort of person that makes noise. And then it becomes a habit. Then the habit now becomes an identity. Silence practiced repeatedly becomes invisibility. So it's not because you're invisible. It's not because the whole world does not know that you exist. It's just that you have practiced being quiet. You have practiced suppressing your feelings. You've practiced suppressing who you are, and then it becomes an identity and becomes an invisibility narrative concerning your life. So all these things I have said, a lot of times they come from, childhood expectations, what you expected the children should be seen and not heard. I've heard that so many times. They tell you, hush, hush, you need to be quiet, daddy needs to rest, you need to be quiet, you don't have the voice. A lot of times, even for those of us who grew up, in Africa or in Nigeria, I'll speak for Nigeria, there's this thing about when an elder person is talking, you don't talk. So you're not allowed to express yourself. You're not allowed to. You're bullied for crying. You're bullied for, or you're shamed for crying. What are you crying about? I'll give you something to cry for. Things like that. So it now becomes something that has formed our mindset. It's very subtle. It's not loud. It's not loud. You can even be in the workplace and you have learned to keep quiet. So people who are louder than you, or people who are more expressive than you, let me not use the word louder, but people who are more expressive than you, tend to make more connections, get more promotions. But you're there, you're just telling yourself, what's the point? They have it. And sometimes it's not because they're more intelligent than you, it's just because they're more vocal. People notice them, people know who they are. So these also things, this silencing, unintentional silencing, I call it like silent silencing, let me even put it that way, comes from my cultural expectations. When you grow up around narratives that say, a woman, the man is the head of the yes, the man is the head of the home. I believe in it. But a lot of times it felt like, the women were subjugated. Not everywhere. This is not a general thing, but some women, where the background, if your culture doesn't permit women I know a particular culture in Nigeria where the women are not allowed to talk. I was talking to one of the women that I mentored, and then I coached, and she said, where she comes from. So it's not like she even wants to do it deliberately, but where she comes from, she watched her mom, not being able to speak, not being able to have a voice, and because that's what the culture expects. So you may have come from a culture like that. There's nothing wrong. but that's where we're going to unpack this, right? It could be relationship dynamics. In every relationship, there's always the one that is the loud one, there's always the one that is the quiet one. And a lot of times our culture has taught us that, the men, yes, the man is, I would say it again, the man is the head of the home. I agree, but also doesn't mean that the woman does not have a voice. So the relationship may work in such a way that, there's such a strong male presence that hasn't also been taught how to recognize the presence or the values or the expressions of a woman. So the man just thinks that his word is law, and then the woman now keeps quiet. So it could be that relationship dynamic. So you just tell yourself, what's the point? And when you want to question these things, there's one voice that I noticed. I starts to tell you things like, you don't have it tough. You have a good home, you have a good husband, you have good children, you have food on the table. So that voice is trying to justify your being silent. Why should you talk? Why should you rock a boat that is, that why should you rock a boat that doesn't need to be rocked? We're not saying that, rock that boat, but you are dying, you as a person. And if you really, really check it, you're being resentful because you don't understand. There's no sense of fulfillment, in that dynamic, with that silence. You're not happy that you're not able to, pursue your dreams, you're not able to express yourself. So you're silent, and then it's killing you, but it's expected of you. So you die in silence. Fear of judgment. This one is, very rampant, especially if you wanted to start a business, you wanted to do something, you wanted to come on social media. You're just afraid that, mob culture, they will just come for you, jugular, and then they will take you down. Yes, I get that. It can be scary to start anything. It can be scary to, turn on your camera, do what you need to do, whatever it is. It can be scary. It can even be scary to for even the closest people to you to judge you and ask what you're doing. What do you think you're doing? So you have learned that not speaking up, speaking up can create tension. So you learn to keep quiet. Speaking up can be very demanding because now there's a conversation that has been opened that you have covered so much. There's a conversation that you have opened, there's a can of worms. You start to say how you feel and they say you're not grateful. Meanwhile, it's not about gratitude, it's about this is not bringing me the kind of fulfillment that I'm looking for. So you don't want to bring up that tension. So you say, let me just keep quiet. Let me just keep quiet. Let me suppress how I feel. Let me suppress my feelings. Let me suppress who I am. Let me just suppress. There's something that it does for a woman eventually. She doesn't rise. She doesn't feel fulfilled. She doesn't feel happy about her life. She doesn't feel heard. She doesn't feel seen. And just like children, when they don't feel heard, they don't feel seen, there's something about it that locks them off and closes off their potential. It's the same thing. Your potential is locked. You realize that there's so much more you could have been, but you can't. So then it feels like, oh, this person has cheated me of my life, or this marriage has cheated me of my life. I hear that a lot. I was reading a thread on whatever, I don't know which one it was, but so many women came on that thread and said that, only if you knew. None of We don't even want to get married these days. A lot of women don't want to get married these days. And I kept reading, and it was some people were saying the same thing. It's not like we want to get married. So there's this thing that marriage is, suitable for the man. I've heard it over and over again. Marriage is suitable for a man, but that's not what marriage is. If marriage is done the way marriage is supposed to be done, it's a partnership, right? And it's something that should build you as a woman and build you as a man. But because we have learned to self-silence, we have learned to suppress how we feel, we have taken the things that have been passed down to us as tradition, as culture. A lot of women are disgruntled. So these disgruntled women are now giving birth to children who do not fancy marriage. Because when a disgruntled woman gives birth to a child and she sees, children, okay, I'll give you an example. Last week, two kids were in my house. One child was acting as if she didn't like the other child. She didn't say it. The other child goes home and says that, Mommy, I feel like, XYZ doesn't like me. I had a conversation with both of them, so I knew what was going on. It wasn't that they didn't talk anything about I don't like you, I like you. But, children have deep feelings. They feel deeply. They might not be able to express what they feel, but they feel your energy. So you're a disgruntled woman in a marriage, for instance. You give birth to these children, give birth to these girls, and then they now grow up thinking, marriage is not sweet because you haven't shown them any picture. Oh, marriage is more suitable for, oh, my daddy had more leeway than my mom. So they grow up with a skewed understanding of what it is to be in a relationship, and then they don't want to be in a relationship. So that's what's happening. That's what I see that is happening now. Because so many women say the same thing. Oh, it's not. But the honest truth is that there was a culture that was, handed over to us, and then that culture is now bringing forth, disgruntled. I know a lot of women are breaking out of it, while some are saying that they will not get married. Some are acing it, some are, doing so much, some are not, they don't care anymore. But the thing is, it brings about a divided culture, brings about a division in culture. So you can't be disgruntled and expect that when your child is about to get married, she's going to be happy about, she might just do it out of duty. She might do it just because. But you see, the real essence of being a wife, I don't even know why I'm veering into this. I'm not a marriage counselor, by the way, and it's not in part of what I wrote down today. But the real essence now gets lost. So you see the way it's dangerous for us to keep up with this invisibility narrative in our marriages, in our homes, in our society as women. There's a danger because we will need to pass on the right things to the next generation so that they don't struggle with things that we struggle with. Oh, I know a lot of very old, I know a lot of elderly women who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who are so disgruntled, who are so unhappy, and we don't want that narrative for us. So rising for me as a woman, one of the real reasons I took on this job is that we can't just keep on living as if we don't matter. You can't just keep living as if we can't rise to purpose just because we're women or just because we're moms. It's not true. Being a mom does not stop you from rising into your purpose. Being a mom does not stop you from doing the things that you might not be doing them at the pace that you would love to, but it also doesn't stop you. Doesn't stop you. If not anything, it purifies you, it expands you. Because when you realize that you're passing on who you are to another person, you don't want to pass on junk. You don't want to pass on clutter. You don't want to pass on things that will not benefit the other person. You want to be able to say, look at me and be like me, not look at me and don't be like me. Don't copy me. So it's a parenting or motherhood for me is a very deep purifying experience. And I like, no, there's something that I need to become that I will need to pass on to my children, because your children are not just taking your words. Like I said the other day, for the two kids, the kids didn't say anything about not liking each other, but the energy, they feel their energy. They know who their friends, they know who they're not are not there. And these are very young girls. They know who are their friends, they know who don't like them, they know who doesn't like them. But you see, it's the same thing. They know when you are unhappy. They know when you're sad. They know that you're disgruntled. They know that you're not happy being a mom. They feel it. They see the size. So that's why we need to deal with this narrative, this invisibility narrative that pushes us to the back. I have digressed too much. Let me go back to what I was saying. So you're not invisible. You've only trained yourself to stay invisible. You're not invincible. You're not silenced. It's just a training. You learned how to soften your voice. You learned how to soften your dream. You learned how to walk around eggshells so that the people around you are not uncomfortable. And that's what has happened. So you're not invincible. You've just trained. So another kind of training needs to happen. And that's something we do in our Becoming Her program. We retrain you to find your voice, to find find your voice. It's very important. It's very important because it doesn't just affect you, it affects generations ahead to come from you. There are three ways. There are three ways we self-silence. The first one we do as women is to give ourselves permission. It's called the permission trap. You're waiting to feel ready. Someone introduces you to a new business, or wants you to do something, or you want to explore your hobby. Oh no, I'm still going to wait for me. I'm going to still go to my dancing school. I just remember that one, right? I always talk about my dancing school. I'm still looking for it. If you know any dancing school in UK, by the way. But that was just on a lighter mood. So you were waiting to feel ready. You tell yourself you're waiting for the children to get older, you're when life settle down, when you feel more confident. The thing about confidence, you see that last one, feeling more confident. The thing about confidence is that confidence comes by doing. If you don't do, you can't feel confident. If you don't do it, if you don't practice it, if you don't, you can't wish confidence into being. You have to do something that you are not confident about. Get uncomfortable doing uncomfortable things. Get comfortable, sorry, doing uncomfortable things, and then the confidence will come. So confidence follows action. It rarely comes first. Hardly comes with action. Confidence is a reward for visibility. It's not a prerequisite. You don't have to be confident to start. You will first start, and then it becomes your reward, and confidence now becomes your reward. Another thing that another way we self-silence as women is the comparison trap. You see someone doing it better, and suddenly your voice feels unnecessary. That one is very rampant. Oh, somebody begs better than me. Oh, somebody dances better than me. Oh, somebody is doing this already. It's very rampant. So you feel small. You feel, oh, what will I do now? Oh, okay, these people are already there. These people have been doing it for 20 years. How do I compete with people that have been doing it for 20 years? It's okay. They started one day. And the thing is, you will never get anywhere if you never start. So, comparison trap. Comparison convinces you that the world does not need you. It convinces you that the world doesn't need you. But the world doesn't need another version of someone else. The world needs the voice that you're withholding. It's also in your belief system, right? It's also your mindset. You just feel like you have nothing valuable to offer. So, what am I doing? Who will listen to me? The only people that will listen to me are my children and their bed. In fact, some of your bedtime stories that you even read to your children, maybe there's someone here, you're listening to me, you're reading bedtime stories to your children, and you realize that you can actually write those bedtime stories, but just something just tells you that some of those bedtime stories, have you read them for children? You're like, what's the meaning of this story? What have you just told? What have you explained? What have you said? Just put three words together. Some books, the whole book is, I have one like that. I had one like that when children were younger. Is, can I have a hug, mommy? Or can I something about hugs. Page one, hug. Page two, hug. Page three, hug. You see, somebody has put that together and is selling children's book and is making money from children's book. The world, doesn't need another somebody else's version. It is your own version. There's something that you're good at. There's something that you're incredible at. Even when you read bedtime stories and you change it, you write your own word, or you insert your own words, and there's a way you have with stories. Maybe there's somebody here that you just need to go and pick up your pen and tell yourself that I can do it, and stop comparing yourself with people who have been there for a long time. The third trap is the comfort trap. I know somebody was talking to me 2 weeks ago, and the person said, I just don't know how to ruffle this life that I have. Let me just stay like this. I'm all these people are saying, don't worry, I'm comfortable, I'm okay. It sounded, we chuckled, we laughed about it, but it sounded funny. But there's nothing that grows in the place of comfort. Nothing grows in the place of comfort. So comfort can feel safe, right? Silence can feel safe. Nobody's criticizing you, nobody knows you, nothing pushes you to grow. You're just comfortable, take the kids to school, enter your car, lock the door. Nobody, you don't have friends, nothing. Nobody's going to come out to your house and disturb your peace. And you even vibe about it. Nobody's coming to my house to disturb my peace. I'm just on my own, oh. But I'm on my own. Nobody should disturb me. I don't disturb people. And you are happy about it. There's nothing wrong with it. But if that is your own way of self-silencing, then there's something wrong with it. You see, the only way you can grow is when something rattles. You see, when something rattles, you just realize that, this criticism that you're avoiding, no exposure that you're avoiding, you're just comfortable. You're not growing. You can't stretch. There's nothing that brings a stretch to you. So when something now happens, like really happens, you find out that you have no capacity to hold on, or to be strong. There's no strength in you, because over the years you have been used to just hiding yourself. You see, the person who decides that I'm going to start selling Zobo, and I'm going to take my Zobo out there, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to start doing that, will more likely grow, because there will be one customer that will say, oh, your ginger is too much in this Zobo, please reduce it. There's another customer that will say the sugar is too much. Oh, you put sugar in Zobo? I don't. Yeah. So she will now learn. She's learning different ways to make her Zobo better, because there's criticism for that Zobo. But when you decide that I want to stay silent, I don't want anybody to criticize me, I don't want to get feedback, I don't want to be vulnerable, I don't want exposure, there's no growth that can happen. Comfort protects you from criticism, but also protects you from impact. There's no stretching. You know that somehow carrying your kids around, being with them, there's a false sense of security that it gives you. A lot of times people are kind to women with children. A lot of times, a whole lot of times, they're kind to women with women with children. So children can unconsciously become your security. Or let's go out. Oh, just hiding behind, I have kids, I have kids, I have kids, and then I have kids. It becomes a hiding. There's no criticism, there's nothing to push you. You're protecting yourself from impact also when you decide that I want to stay in that comfort zone and I don't want to grow. So, how can we pivot? How can we change this mindset? How can we shift from this? Visibility is not about becoming louder, it's about becoming honest. When you stop negotiating your voice, something changes. You begin to occupy space differently, not aggressively, not but intentionally. Your voice grows when you stop apologizing for it. When you feel, certain things should be done in a certain way in the house, you're not telling yourself that, oh, what's the point? Don't ever say to yourself, what's the point? There's a point. Even if you're so yesterday, last night, or no, last week, sorry. Yeah, last week. I was on a call with someone. I was on a call with someone, and the call didn't even last maybe 5 minutes. By 5 minutes, the call was supposed to be 40 minutes, and it was supposed to be me buying a product from the person who called. But the person had her feet, or yeah, they had their feet. They had who their ideal customer, who they wanted to buy this product. So before they went on, they just wanted to make sure that was the ideal fit. And then in less than 5 minutes, realized, okay, this person doesn't have what it takes to do what we want, and then they dropped the call. And for the first time, I looked at myself and said, actually, you don't feel bad about this. I don't feel bad about this. I knew that the call could either go with a yes or with a no. So I asked for something, right? You either tell me a yes or a no. The point I'm trying to make here is that a lot of times we are so careful, because you don't want to receive a no, you don't want to receive a letdown, you don't want people to tell you no. So you quiet your voice, you apologize for your voice. What's the worst that can happen? I got on the call, and then I got the contract, or I didn't get the contract. It's one or two things. It can't be that hard. But fear also keeps you from trying. Fear also keeps you from saying that, let me just get on that call. Oh, these people look like, I don't look like these people's profile. But what who says? So even learning to take no, not willing, you might speak up, right, in the house. You might speak up with your spouse, you might speak up whatever it is in your workplace, and people don't agree with you, but you've spoken up. You've untrained the process of untraining yourself from self-silencing has started. You ask for a favor, you get no. It's okay, but you still asked because you felt you needed that favor. You stop apologizing for, so somebody, you ask for a favor, the person tells you no, you start to apologize. You don't apologize for your own voice. Your voice grows when you stop apologizing for it. It might not always be correct, but the fact that you have opened your mouth and have spoken, there's room for correction, there's room for growth, there's room for somebody to call you and say, okay, come this way, let's tell you that this is not how they do it. But when you seclude yourself, when you lack exposure, when you tell yourself, I'm not going to be exposed to, I'm not going to allow people to give me feedback, another way to self silence yourself. So I want us to reflect before we go this afternoon. Ask yourself something very honestly. Where have you been quiet when your voice was needed? Where have you been quiet? It may even be a situation in the house. Your husband wants to do a business, and you know deep down within you that business, you don't feel comfortable about it. He might go ahead, though. I'm not saying he will stop the business. He might go ahead. But did you lend your voice in that situation and say, oh, honey, I don't think that we should be, putting money into, buying this Airbnb right now? Or did you just say, if I talk, what's the big deal? Or then when he now says, okay, I've heard you, but he still goes ahead, do you silence yourself for a further for something else? So yes, I said it. You don't need to have a yes all the time you speak. But when you now speak, do you then say, I said it, I said it, they wouldn't listen to me, so what's the point? There's a point. It's you training yourself. You're not training yourself for the person's response. You're training yourself for yourself. So the person's response doesn't really matter. What matters is that you are training yourself to stop self-silencing, to stop feeling invisible, to stop saying that your voice doesn't matter. You're also training yourself because there's somebody watching you. If you have daughters, even sons, there are people watching you who need to learn how to stand for themselves wherever they are. Everybody needs to learn to stand for themselves, especially in this generation where voices are loud, internet is loud. Your children go to school and everybody has, an opinion. Anybody can learn anything in a second. Anybody can, just they need to be able to say no to the things that are not necessary for them at the time. And it comes from watching you, the confidence you exude, the way you don't self-silence, the way you speak, the way you lend your voice in the matters of your home. It does matter. Also ask yourself, where have you postponed the expression of who you really are? Some of you used to love to draw. Some of you used to love to sing. Some of you used to love to dance. When last did you just turn up the music and just dance in the kitchen? Or is your kitchen just for cooking? Is your kitchen just for instructions, commanding? No joy, no laughter? Do your children join you in singing because you just love to sing, but you've forgotten who you really are? You've forgotten this melody that comes when you open your mouth. You've forgotten the rhythm of your feet, how you used to dance and how you used to dance with reckless abandon. Do you bring your children into that space that they can actually dance with you? Or you're so stressed because of silence? Let me invite you. Let me invite you even at this time. And that's why I talk about our 90-day becoming her program. It's not because you lack the ability. A lot of times, to be fair, life can be hard. Motherhood can be can be quite demanding. To be honest, it can be. And that's why you don't do life alone. That's why you do life in containers. That's why you do life where other women who are thriving, who have found their rhythm, who have found their song again, who have found what made them them. You do life with them. You unpack the things that have suppressed you. You unpack the childhood expectations, the cultural expectations, the relationship dynamics. You begin to find your voice again. You have that space where you can freely express yourself. The link is in the description of this video. And you can join us in our Becoming Her program. It's a place where women stop to rehearsing silence and start practicing leadership. Leadership doesn't have to be of anybody, even self leadership. You start to practice self leadership, start to design the type of life that you want, start to design the type of life that brings you joy, that brings you honor, that brings you peace, that removes the resentment from your life just because you don't feel heard, seen, and loved. The world does not need a quieter version of you. It needs the version of you that stopped apologizing. So, hey, mamas, let's start living. I'll see you next week on another Friday Live. Thank you once again for always joining us. And I look forward to having these conversations with you. I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to your comments in the comment section. I look forward to every single moment I spend with you, wonderful ladies. Hey, mamas, let's start living.